Welcome to the second annual Communication Studies Student Showcase. My name is Elise Villalobos, a proud Communication Studies student here at LBCC, and I will be your host for this evening. I just wanted to thank you all for coming out here tonight, whether you're here to support your friends, your children, or just to get some extra credit. I see some of you comm students out there in the audience. But whoever you are here for tonight, you are in for an amazing show. Tonight we'll be featuring performances on oral interpretation, informative speeches, poetry readings, and storytelling. After we've completed the first portion of our show, please head over to our beautiful Horticulture Center, where you will have a 30-minute intermission filled with free drinks and hors d'oeuvres, as well as a live musical entertainment by Eddie Montana and our very own professor, Christina Lynn Moorhead. And don't forget to come back and enjoy our second half of our show, where we'll be having a very enlightening debate on whether or not higher education in the United States should be free. A relevant topic for everyone here, student and faculty alike. At the end of our showcase, we will also be announcing the winners of our opportunity drawing, so please be sure to stay for that if you'd like to win some free gift cards. Now, before we get started, let's practice some basic comm etiquette, and please silence or turn off your cell phones so we can engage with the performers tonight. Now, enough of my talking. Let me introduce to you our first performer of the night, Hannah Robinson. She will be telling you a story entitled, "Don't Let Your Child Faint in Front of Me."
I heard a shriek, and then I turned around. There was a man on the ground. He didn't look like he was breathing. I wasn't sure what to do, but I knew I had to do something in that moment. This is a story about trusting your instincts in dire situations. I call it, "Don't Let Your Child Faint in Front of Me." Now it all started when I got my first job. I work with children, so of course need to know some CPR, first aid basics, and I was actually really excited to get the certification. It had always been on my bucket list. So I went into the class and I was welcomed with an adult-sized dummy. So when you're performing CPR, you've got to press down on the chest 30 times and then you breathe twice. So we practiced on this adult-sized dummy for several minutes. So press, 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 breathe once, breathe twice. Got it down. Next, we were working with the infant-sized dummy. Now, my instructor had warned us all, if you're not careful with this dummy, something bad might happen. I thought, okay, I got this. I already did the adult-sized dummy. How hard could working on an infant-sized dummy be? So, started pressing, pressing, pressing. Breathe once, breathe twice, and off of the dummy flew the infant's chest. I had just killed my baby. Well, luckily everyone else was too busy saving their own child to notice that I had killed mine, so I went and got the chest, put it back on, pretended like nothing had happened. But someone did notice. My instructor looked at me and said, "I saw that." Then she walked over to me, pointed at me and said, "Stop the class, stop the class." This girl, she did not listen to my instructions, and now her child is dead. I was mortified. Everybody knew I was a murderer. I was going to get my own episode of 1,000 Ways to Die. I wasn't sure if I was going to pass this class, but luckily I did. But still, I wasn't really confident in myself. I mean, what if I really did have to perform CPR one day? Well, flash forward to a few months later, I was at a graduation party with my family. We were eating at a table, and that's when we heard the shriek. And we turned, and we saw a man on the ground. He didn't look like he was breathing. In that moment, I knew I had to do something. I thought, I have CPR training, I can do this, I'm gonna save this man's life, and I'm going to be recognized by the city of Long Beach for being a hero. And then I thought, wait. I just killed an infant dummy a couple of months ago. What makes me qualified to do this? All of a sudden, all of these doubts started flooding into my head. There was a man on the ground there. I don't know what I was doing doubting myself, but luckily there was a nurse at the party and she knew CPR, so she performed it on him herself. I decided I should do something, so I called 911, told them the situation, and they came rushing, and luckily the man was okay. I was so glad there was someone else at the party to help, and that I was able to help myself. But then I thought, what if the nurse hadn't been there? What if no one else at the party knew CPR? What would I have done? I think oftentimes we find ourselves in situations that require a lot of bravery in a split second, but we tend to doubt ourselves. In that moment, I wish I was confident enough to be able to perform CPR on this man. So if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, where you need to be brave within a split second, just remember my mantra. Just because I killed the dummy does not mean I am one myself. Thank you.
Next up, we are going to have Sarah Martins performing Sorry by Nidazaki Shang.
My poem is about a woman who had a husband and he cheated on her and gave her the virus HIV. One thing I don't need is any more apologies. I got sorry greeting me at the front door, you can keep yours. I don't know what to do with them. They don't open doors, they don't bring the sun back or make me happy. Did nobody stop using my tears to wash cars cause of sorry? I am simply tired of collecting. I ain't all this important to you. I can't get to the clothes in my closet because of all the sorries. I'm gonna put a tap on my door, leave a message by my phone. If you call to say you're sorry, call somebody else. Cause I don't use them anymore. I let sorry, didn't mean to, and how was I supposed to know about it? Take a walk down a dark and musty street in Brooklyn. I'm gonna do what I wanna do, and I'm not gonna be sorry for none of it. Let a sorry soothe your soul. I'm gonna soothe mine. You were always inconsistent, doing something and then being sorry, beating my heart to death, talking about you sorry. Well, I'm not gonna call. I'm not gonna be nice. I will scream and holler and race things and break things and tell all your secrets about yourself to your face. And I will list in detail every one of my wonderful lovers and their ways. Oh, and I will play all of it late loud. And I'm not gonna be sorry for none of it. I loved you on purpose. I was open on purpose. I still crave vulnerability and small talk, but I'm not even sorry about you being sorry. You can keep all the guilt and grime you want to, just don't give it to me. Next time you should admit you're a mean, low down, trifling, and no count straight out, instead of being sorry all the damn time. Enjoy being yourself.
Next up, we have Bobby Gaxiola performing How to Love Your Introvert by Kevin Yang.
You are almost completely misunderstood in nearly every area by your extroverted humans in your life. Solitude is essential, and sometimes it's the air I breathe. I'm an introvert. 1, we introverts are not always the best at breaking the ice. So in order to get the ball rolling, we sometimes have to revert to tactics that might seem obscure to your average extrovert. This might include subtle clearings of the throat, gentle hand gesturing, a
and carefully placing routine numbers in conversations where they normally don't belong. 2. You might be asking yourself, how can I be sure that I'm actually speaking to an introvert and not someone who's simply masquerading as one? Well, here are a few telltale signs. If the person puts their arm around your shoulder as they're introducing themselves to you for the first time, probably not an introvert. If the person uses the words unwind and nightclub in the same sentence, probably not an introvert. If the person attempts to engage in any conversation whatsoever about the weather, and they're not from Minnesota, probably not an introvert. 3, to set the record straight, I do not hate people, but I do get tired of them sometimes. Just pretend for a second that my desire to socialize could be equated to my desire to exercise. This would mean that a quick jog around the block would be a lot like catching a cup of coffee with a friend. Bar hopping with friends would be a lot like running a 6-minute mile. And my senior prom was a little bit like running the Ironman in the middle of August. Now you see, I don't hate talking to people any more than they hate a little bit of exercise. But you wouldn't challenge an Olympian to a marathon just after they finished a race. Understand when I tell you that I can't hang out tonight. Maybe it's not because I hate you. Maybe it's because I'm tired. 4, there will be many times you will be uncomfortable in my silence, unsure of how I'm feeling. Understand that just because I don't wear my heart on my sleeve for everyone to see does not mean that my heart beats any softer than yours. Don't confuse the sounds of words beating 80 beats per minute with the music of actual conversation. Just because I cannot commit to the act of small talk does not mean that I don't have huge things to say. And just because I find peace within myself does not mean that I could ever stop wanting to love so hard. Because 5, the introverts are not always the best at breaking the ice. So in order to get the ball rolling, we often have to resort to tactics that might seem obscure to your average extroverts. This may include subtle clearings of the throat, gentle hand gesturing, and writing an entire poem just to say 6. I love you more than quiet trips to the library. I love you more than canceling Friday night plans. I love you more than solitude. But when this world is shouting far too loudly for us to hear our own voices, and these words are clinging far too tightly to my own chest, I just want you to know that I love you. I love you. I love you. I can't tell you, but this poem can.
Next up, we will have Katie Owens performing a formative speech entitled Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, Reflections on a Common Myth.
Knock on wood. Step on a crack, and you'll break the mother's back. Don't let a black cat cross your path. And if you break a mirror, you'll have 7 years of bad luck. How many of us have heard of any, if not all, of these superstitions? How many of us know where any of these came from? Many of these superstitions are things we reference in everyday conversations, yet not many of us know where they actually come from. And whether you believe in them or not, learning the origin of these common superstitions can reveal a rich history that you may not have even been aware of. Today I've chosen to discuss the origin of a superstition that I was particularly curious about, and one that I've done a lot of prior research on. And that is the notion that breaking a mirror will bring 7 years of bad luck. First, I will discuss the ancient beliefs associated with a person's reflection, and lastly, I will discuss why it is said you have 7 years of bad luck and the cross-cultural significance of the number 7. To begin, I will first discuss the most important part of a mirror, its ability to produce a reflection. The origin of the breaking a mirror superstition can actually be traced back far before the creation of the first mirrors, and is rooted in ancient beliefs associated with a person's reflection. Reflections played a major role in many rituals in ancient civilizations. According to the Classical Review in 2006, ancient Greek and Roman oracles used water and crystals, but more specifically for the reflections these two mediums produced, and they used these reflections as a form of divination and fortune telling. But along with just aiding and predicting the future, a person's reflection also held a lot of spiritual meaning. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy in 2003, the ancient Greek, Roman, Indians, and Africans all believed that a person's reflection held their soul. And so if this reflection became damaged or distorted in any way, then it was believed that person's soul would too become damaged and distorted. And this is really the root of where we get that idea, that breaking a mirror is bad luck. It's not so much that it's bad luck that you've broken the mirror, but that you've broken your reflection and therefore damaged your soul. Now that you have a better understanding of the ancient beliefs associated with a person's reflection, I will now explain why it is said you have 7 years of bad luck. 7 years of bad luck for breaking a mirror might seem kind of excessive and maybe even a little bit random. But if you look at the numbers' long history, you will see that this is not the case. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica in 2018, the number 7 has held a great significance across many different cultures throughout history. To name a few examples, there is the Roman creation of the 7-day week, the 7 Greek Pythagorean musical notes, and the Christian notions of the 7 deadly sins and the 7 days of creation. But it's still not really clear where exactly the number 7 comes from in the breaking mirror superstition. However, it is believed to be attributed to ancient Roman and Chinese beliefs. According to the Encyclopedia of Occultism and Parapsychology in 1996, the ancient Romans believed that a person's body restores and regenerates itself every 7 years. Similarly, in ancient China, it was believed that a person's destiny renewed every 7 years. And so if you were to distort your reflection, damage your soul, and bring misfortune upon yourself, this misfortune would continue until your body restored itself and your destiny renewed 7 years later. And that is why they said you have 7 years of bad luck. Today, I first informed you of the ancient beliefs associated with a person's reflection, and lastly, I explained why it is said you have 7 years of bad luck after breaking a mirror. We hear these superstitions all the time, but now hopefully you have a better understanding of where one of them comes from, and maybe even a nice fun fact to impress your friends. To conclude, I hope my presentation shattered your expectations and gave you plenty to reflect upon. Thank you.
Our next performer for this evening is Tema Sapoy Finao, performing To This Day by Shane Quaysan.
If you can't see anything beautiful about yourself, get a better mirror. Look a little closer and stare a little longer, because there's something inside you that makes you keep trying. In some points of our lives, we struggle with this thing called self-love, whether we're an elementary student dealing with bullying or a mom that's trying to raise 2 kids. We continue to have this fight within ourselves, trying to convince us that we're worth it. And as I recite to you this spoken word piece, hopefully we all can get a perspective on this. So I give you To This Day by Shane Quaysan. I'm not the only kid who grew up this way. Surrounded by people who used to say that rhyme about sticks and stones, as if broken bones hurt more than the names that we got called them all. So we grew up believing that no one would ever fall in love with us, that we'd be lonely forever, that no one would ever fall in love with us, to make us feel like the sun was something they built for us in their tool shed. So broken heartstrings bled the blues as we try to empty ourselves. Don't tell me that hurts less than a broken bone. She was 8 years old. Our first day of grade 3, she felt called ugly. We both got moved to the back of the class so we stopped getting bombarded by spitballs. But the school halls were a battleground where we found ourselves outnumbered day after wretched day. We used to stay inside for recess because outside was worse. Outside we had to rehearse running away or letting us stay still like statues, giving no clues that we were there. In grade 5, they taped a sign to her desk that said, "Beware of dog." To this day, despite a loving husband, she doesn't think she's beautiful because of a birthmark that takes up a little less than half her face. Kids used to say that she looks like a wrong answer that someone tried to erase but couldn't quite get the job done. And they'll never understand that she's raising 2 kids whose definition of beauty begins with the word mom. Because they see her heart before they see her skin. Because she's only ever always been amazing. To this day, kids are still being called names. Hey spaz. Hey stupid. Seems like each school has an arsenal of names getting updated every year. And if a kid breaks down in school and no one around chooses to hear, do they make a sound? Are they just stuck on repeat when people say things like, kids can be cruel? And if you can't see anything beautiful about yourself, get a better mirror. Look a little closer, stare a little longer, because there's something inside you that made you keep trying. Despite everyone who told you to quit, you built a cast around your broken heart, and you signed it yourself. You signed it. They were wrong, because maybe you didn't belong to a group or a clique. Maybe they decided to pick you last or basketball or everything. Maybe you used to bring bruises and broken teeth to show and tell, but never told, because how can you hold your ground if everyone around you wants to bury you beneath it? You had to believe that they were wrong. It had to be wrong. Why else would we still be here? We grew up learning to cheer on the underdog because we see ourselves in that. We stem from a root planted in the belief that we are not what we were called. We are not abandoned cars stalled out and sitting empty on the highway. And if some way we are, don't worry. We only gotta walk out and get gas. We are graduating members from the class of we made it. Not the fatal echoes of voices crying out, names will never hurt me. Of course they did. But our lives will only ever always continue to be a balancing act that has to do less with pain and more with you.
And now I'd like to welcome up Ron Orden performing Mud Cookies.
So sometimes in life we have to resort to doing the extremes just for the mere purpose of survival. Luckily for us as Americans, we are very privileged to not have to think about what we're going to eat for dinner or what we're going to eat for breakfast. So, that being said, who here has ever heard of the term mud cookies? So, not a lot of us. So, today, first off, I'm going to be going over what mud cookies are, the process of making them, and the health effects they propose. So, before I talk about what they are, I'm going to talk about why they eat it. So in Haiti, about 80% of the population lives on about $1 to $2 a day. And with the added recent continuous natural disasters that occur in Haiti, the people are unable to make money, and with no money means no economy, and with no economy means people have to resort to doing the extremes to feed the most amount of people with the least amount of money as possible. And that's where mud cookies comes in. So what are mud cookies? Well, mud cookies is just all in the name. They're dirt mixed with vegetable oil, salt, and sometimes sugar. So the process of making them is very simple. So first, the merchants from the town of Hinche, they shovel the dirt and then they chug it up and then they transport it to nearby market, for example, the La Saline market, where all the poor people and meet up and they exchange goods. So after they are transported, they are then sold to women, and the women mix it up with dirt. And as you can see from the back, from behind me, they're mixing it up with dirt, with vegetable oil and salt. And once they make the pancake type batter, they are then dried up on an open field. And this open field is actually called Fort Demanche, which was an old prison where torture used to occur, and it's now become a common open ground for poor people to come together. So after they are dried up, they are then sold for about 5 cents a piece to mostly children, because the adults don't like to eat it because they feel ashamed of having to resort to that type of food. So the locals call it bonbon terres, which is a local name, and it basically translates to good earth. So in 2008, National Geographic reporter actually tried the mud cookies out. What they found was that the moment you bite into the mud cookies, all the moisture just gets sucked out of your mouth. And several hours later, the reporter still tasted the lingering dirt in his mouth. Just imagine that these people had to get used to the fact that they're eating mud. They're eating mud on a daily basis just to survive. I know I would never be able to do that because, I'm very privileged to be able to not think about eating the extremes. And I believe that's why it's important for you guys to be exposed to this type of livelihood in Haiti. So mud cookies pose a lot of health effects. And basically, dirt contains a lot of deadly diseases, parasites, and toxins. And as you can see from the woman that was mixing up the batter, the environment which she was making it in was not very clean. So a lot of insects and parasites could get in there and contaminate the batter. Also, the people that are mostly vulnerable to this are women, pregnant women, and children. Children, because since they're very young, their immune systems are not very developed yet, so exposing themselves to this type of diseases and so on is already weakening them even more. For pregnant women, because they're already sharing their body with another human being in their system, so they're already vulnerable in that. So with the added effect of mud cookies, they're becoming more vulnerable to diseases and even death. However, an immunology professor from Colorado University named Dr. Callahan believes that because these people are being exposed to dirt and eating mud cookies, their immune systems are actually stronger. However, Haitian doctors say that there is no connection whatsoever, and exposing yourself to mud cookies and eating something that has no sustenance whatsoever is already bad for your health, with the added effects of the diseases. So, I got all of my information from a documentary by National Geographic back in 2008. But when I was looking up articles online, and I saw some that was as recent as 2017, and it just made me think that almost a decade later, nothing has changed. These people are still having to live eating mud cookies, and there's not a lot of exposure about it, which is why I believe it's important for you guys to be able to see how privileged you are and just how ridiculous or sad that in the 21st century, with Haiti being in the Western Hemisphere, located next to one of the most powerful countries on earth, you can see the socioeconomic divide between the two countries, the United States and Haiti. That is all. Thank you.
Next up, we have Laura Meincheese performing her own interpretation of The Great Mouse Plot by famous author Roald Dahl.
before anyone can write great stories, they have to live them. Roald Dahl was a great storyteller and an extraordinary writer. He gave us such gifts as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, the BFG, and The Witches. The story I'm going to share with you this evening, however, is from Dahl's 1920s Welsh childhood. It was shared in his 1984 autobiography, Boy. It takes place in the village sweet shop, and in it we might recognise such literary favourites as The Twits or Matilda's Agatha Trunchbull. The candy store was the centre of Dahl's life at 9 years old. He describes it as what a church is to a bishop or a bar to a drunk. But this particular candy store had one major important drawback, which he describes quite early on in the story. The woman who owned it was a horror. Her name was Mrs. Pratchett. She was a small, skinny old hag with a moustache on her upper lip and a mouth as sour as a green gooseberry. She never welcomed us when we went in, and the only times she spoke were to say things like, "I'm watching you, so keep your fingers off them chocolates." Or, "Either your fork's out or your get's out." But by far the most loathsome thing about Mrs. Pratchett was the filth that clung around her. Her apron was grey and greasy. Her blouse had bits of breakfast all over it. Toast crumbs, and tea stains, and bits of dried egg yolk. It was her hands, however, that disturbed us the most. They were disgusting. They were black with dirt and grime. They looked as though they had been putting lumps of coal on the fire all day long. And do not forget, please, that it was these very hands that she plunged into the sweet jars when we asked for a pennyworth of treacle, or gobstoppers, or toffee, or wine gums, or whatever. So, when Dahl and his friends discovered a dead mouse under the floorboards of their classroom, they knew exactly what to do with it, after a moment or two of confusion, of course. "Hold on a tick, don't throw it away." They all hesitated. They looked at me. Now, when writing about oneself, one must strive to be truthful. Truth is more important than modesty. I must tell you, therefore, that it was I, and I alone, who had the idea for the great and daring mouse plot. We all have our moments of brilliance and glory, and this was mine. Why don't we slip it into one of Mrs. Pratchett's sweet jars? Then, when she puts her dirty hand in to grab a handful, she will grab a stinky dead mouse instead. The other four stared at me in wonder, and then, as the sheer genius of the plot began to sink in, they all started grinning. They slapped me on the back, they cheered me and danced around the classroom. "We'll do it today," they cried. "You had the idea, so you can put the mouse in the jar." Thwaites handed me the mouse. I put it into my trouser pocket. Then the five of us left the school, crossed the village green, and headed for the sweet shop. We were tremendously jazzed up. We felt like a gang of desperados about to blow up a sheriff's office or rob a train. "Make sure you put it in a jar which is used often," somebody said. "I'm putting it in the gobstoppers. The gobstopper jar is never behind the counter." "I've got a penny," said Thwaites, "so I'll ask for one sherbet sucker and one bootlace. And while she turns away, you slip it quickly into the gobstopper jar." Thus, everything was arranged. We were strutting a little as we entered the shop. We were the victors now, and Mrs. Pratchett the victim. She stood behind the counter, and her small, malignant pig eyes watched us as we came forward. "One sherbet sucker, please," Thwaites said, holding out his penny. I kept to the rear of the group, and as Mrs. Pratchett turned away, I lifted the lid of the gobstopper jar, dropped the mouse in. Then I replaced the lid as silently as possible. My heart was thumping like mad, and my hands had gone all sweaty. "And one bootlace, please," I heard Thwaites saying. When I turned around, Mrs. Pratchett was holding up the bootlace in her filthy fingers. "I don't want all the lot of you trooping in here if only one of you is buying. Now get out." As soon as we were outside, we broke into a run. "Did you do it?" they shouted. Of course I did. I felt like a hero. I was a hero. It was marvelous to be so popular.
I'd like to welcome up Stephanie Fessler with an informative speech called Inside Mental Illness.
Go Stephanie!
Hello. I know many of us may have a sister or a brother, but just imagine if your sister or brother was living with a mental illness. Well, I don't have to imagine. My sister has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I know we all have seen the movies of the bad man and his crime sprees with the underlying cause of mental illness. We all sometimes make jokes about people being crazy or nuts. All in all, whatever the experience, we have all had some type of exposure to mental illness. Due to my sister's diagnosis in 1995, I've had a growing interest in the study of mental illness. So today, I will inform you about mental illness. First, I will share with you what mental illness is. Second, I will discuss how this illness does affect us all. And third, I will share with you ways to seek help and get diagnosed and treatment for yourself, family, and friends. So let's begin by learning what mental illness is. The Mayo Clinic refers to mental illness as a wide range variety of mental health conditions, disorders that affect your mood, thinking, or your behavior. Anxiety and depression are the most common forms of mental illness. However, the runner-up is bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder consists of severe mood swings, from highs to lows and from lows to highs. Highs are periods of mania, excessively talking too fast, racing thoughts, where lows are periods of feeling sad, hopeless, and even suicidal. Now I know we are all different, but with what's going on in the world today, I feel that all presidents and vice presidents should have a mental evaluation. Now that will make America great again. Now that you're aware of what mental illness is and some of its disorders, I would also like to discuss how this illness can affect us all. According to the Washington Post, Jennifer Lewis, she has suffered with bipolar disorder. You may not know Jennifer Lewis. She's appeared in over 300 shows and movies. You'll probably know her best from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Sister Act, and my favorite, The Princess and the Frog. She played Mama Odie. You know, you gotta dig a little deeper. Also, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 6 adults live with mental illness. Over 45 million people live with this illness. And young adults, aged 18 to 25, are the highest rate for mental illness. Let's see, I'm sorry. The diagnosis and treatment for mental illness can vary from person to person, depending on the severity of the illness. The treatment is, the diagnosis is based on a physical exam, lab results, and a mental evaluation. The second form of treatment would be medications and psychotherapy. While treating mood disorders, there are lots and lots of medications that can help with mood disorders as well. Many facilities in Long Beach offer professional counseling. For example, your doctor can refer you to a psychiatrist. Here at Long Beach City College, we offer counseling for enrolled students, which is awesome. So today, I have informed you. First, about what mental illness is. Second, how this illness can affect each and every one of us in here. And finally, ways to seek help and get diagnosed for yourself, family, or friends. In conclusion, I would like to tell you as well that mental illness affects not just millions of people here, but people worldwide. And when this illness is not treated, if it goes untreated or undiagnosed, it can lead to depression. And at its worst, depression can lead to suicide. So remember this, to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, have compassion for each other, and be kind to one another. Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome up Stacy Brooks with veganism.
Sorry. Over 17 million people die of cardiovascular disease a year. That's 1 in every 3 people. I chose to talk about veganism and a few reasons why people decide to go vegan. Many people believe that you can get an autoimmune disease due to heredity in your family. And originally I started as a pescatarian in hopes of losing weight, but once you're immersed into a culture, that's when you start to learn more things about it. I'm going to explain to you today what veganism is and talk about how anti-vegan diets are connected to diabetes and cancer. Veganism is a way of living where you avoid, as far as possible, any exploitation of animals. That includes wearing any animal products as well as clothing. It is proven that the body is not made to break down any type of animal products, and they can cause damage to you directly. Animal products consist mainly of saturated fats, and the body doesn't have cells to directly break those down. We have cells specifically for breaking down sugars and carbohydrates, but not fats. It takes 15 to 30 minutes to digest carbohydrates and sugars, but it takes up to 2 days to digest meats. Majority of the colored population is lactose intolerance. This is supporting the fact that majority are not supposed to eat or drink any dairy products. 73% of African Americans are actually lactose intolerant. 95% of Asians are lactose intolerant, and 53% of Hispanics are lactose intolerant. Now let's talk about how non-vegan diets are directly connected to diabetes. Diabetes is the presence of too much sugar in the blood system, and many people believe that you can get diabetes through hereditary reasons, but it's more than that because your body can act out on traits specifically, but you can avoid certain things by the way of living. Like stated before, your body is meant to break down sugars and carbohydrates. We have cells called glycogen that break down carbohydrates and sugars directly. The process of which diabetes occurs. Diabetes occurs when the fat from animal products are stored into the blood vessels. And once the fat is stored, the sugars and carbohydrates can no longer get to the glycogen cells that break down the sugars. Therefore, the sugar just stays in the blood vessels and travels all the way down to the liver. Now let's talk about how it's directly connected to cancer. Cancer is a disease which abnormal cells continuously divide and destroy body tissue. You are more likely to get cancer from the foods that you eat rather than other things that you do in your daily life, like smoking. Animal products consist of dioxin, which cause cancer. Men can never get rid of dioxin, and women can get rid of dioxin 2 different ways, which is through breast milk or through childbirth. So your infant is getting all of these hormones directly after birth, or during during carrying the child, the fetus. When diagnosed with cancer, if you already have cancer, it can increase your chances or the speed or the rate of breast cancer by 94%, and increase prostate cancer by 34%. And if you continue on, then you can increase mortality rate by 64%. I've explained to you exactly what veganism is and how it's directly connected to diabetes and cancer. This was not meant to scare you into going into a vegan diet. It was just meant to inform you of how a non-vegan diet can affect you in your daily living. So thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Jeremy Gates, performing one of Frederick Douglass's most famous speeches, What to the Slave is the 4th of July.
The history of the U.S. has been oppressed people fighting for rights. A prime example of that would be Frederick Douglass, slavery abolitionist, formerly enslaved, who was invited to speak in Rochester in 1852 on the 4th of July. Mr. President, friends and fellow citizens, he who could address this audience without a quelling sensation has stronger nerve than I have. I do not remember ever to have appeared as a speaker before. The history of the U.S. has been oppressed people fighting for rights. A prime example of that would be Frederick Douglass, slavery abolitionist, formerly enslaved, who was invited to speak in Rochester in 1852 on the 4th of July. Mr. President, friends and fellow citizens, he who could address this audience without a quelling sensation has stronger nerve than I have. I do not remember ever to have appeared as a speaker before any assembly more shriekingly, nor with greater distrust in my ability than I do this day. A feeling has crept over me quite unfavorably to the limited powers of my exercise of speech. Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for your sake and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light, my burden easy, and delightful. But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing arguments, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quakened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed. And its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, grass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of equality, hollow mockery. your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world. Travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation. And you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome up Brook Bears, performing Fear by Morgan Miles. Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome up Brook Bears, performing Fear by Morgan Miles, and Me But Happy by Neil Hilborn.
What are you afraid of? Snakes? Spiders? Flying? What about falling in love? A lot of people ask me what my biggest fear is, and I know they expect me to answer like heights or closed spaces or people dressed like animals, but how do I tell them that when I was 17, I took a class called Relationships for Life, and I learned that most people fall out of love for the same reason that they fell in. That their lover's once enduring stubbornness has now become refusal to compromise, and that their one-track mind is now immaturity. And their bad habits that you once adored are now money down the drain. Their spontaneity becomes reckless and irresponsible, and their feet on your dash is no longer sexy. It's just another distraction in your busy life. Nothing saddens and scares me more than the thought that I can become ugly to someone who once thought all the stars were in my eyes. But what if you were the stars in each other's eyes? I would like to thank you, personally, for always making me feel like I'm the king of the pope of the whole world. When I'm around you, it's like I'm full of electricity, but in a cool way that's possibly giving me a heart attack. I want to thank you for making all the love songs mean something again. Now when Sam Smith comes on the radio, I still roll my eyes, but I do it while smiling. The best part about being in love with you is that I never have to brush my teeth, but gosh darn do I want to. You're the best thing that has happened to me since I was, born. You make me want to do pointless, actually dumb things like learning to play the flute or voting. In the list of things that I love about you, maybe the second or third entry is the way you turn my awful days into awful days with cheeseburgers. Have you ever smashed your face into a whole bunch of cool, wet sand? You should, because that's pretty much what it's like to hang out with you. I've never made out with Jesus before, but I imagine that's kind of like holding your hand. If I had rickets, it would be okay, because I'd have rickets with you. I would like to thank you for never, not once, not ever, making fun of me while I cry from watching the same scene from Parks and Rec for the 25th time. I would like to thank you for letting me fall in love with you, and then deciding to start a pop-punk band. I want to thank you for listening to all of the mixes that I've made you and pretending you at least sort of like them. I always try to be cool and stuff, but it's hard to act like I don't care when you're so pretty all the damn time. The new way to say I love you is to just ram our foreheads together. We can't really be sad if we're both sad in the same place, right? I want to thank you for wanting me to be me, but happy. I don't know why we're both here, but since we are, let's make out until we're dead. Before I met you, I wanted to be dead all the time. And I still do because of the, mental illness. But now that you're here, I don't want to die anymore. If you were a breakfast cereal, you'd be called Reason to Wake Up-O's. Sure, there are probably infinite dimensions. But I'm with you in this one. So why would I try to find them?
And with that, we have completed the first half of our show. Let's give all of our amazing performers a big round of applause. At this time, I would encourage you all to head over to our beautiful Horticulture Center right across from this building, where you can enjoy our 30-minute intermission. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed our intermission in our beautiful Horticulture Center. Before we get started, let's give a quick round of applause for Eddie Montana and Professor Christina Moorhead on their spectacular performance today. At this time, I would like to introduce you to the LVCC students who will be taking part in today's debate. So on the affirmative side, we have Kevin Miranda and Daisy Garcia. And on the negative side, we have Matthew Patello and Valerie Ornelas. The resolution being debated this evening is whether or not higher education should be free in the United States. It is tradition for parliamentary debate for the audience to participate. Now, with that being said, if the debaters make a strong argument, please feel free to say, "Hear, hear." And if they make an argument that you dislike or disagree with, please feel free to say, "Shame." Shame. Alright. So let's all practice together one more time. On the count of 3, I want to hear everyone say, "Hear, hear." 1, 2, 3. Hear, hear. Alright. Now everyone say shame on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Shame. Alright. Good job, everyone. You got it. So in case you were wondering, this is the same debate style our faculty uses here in our classrooms. So hopefully that'll encourage you to take debate. So finally, at the end of our debate, you, the audience, will be asked to vote for who you thought was the most persuasive team. The voting method you'll be using is very complicated, so please listen carefully. To cast your vote, you're going to put your head down, you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to raise your hand. And that's really high tech, I know, it's hard to grasp. Maybe it might remind you of Heads Up 7-Up in elementary school, I don't know. So without further ado, I would like to turn over the debate to the Speaker of the House, Professor Carrie Ann Pike.
Ready? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call this House to order. We are ready to entertain the first affirmative speaker, not to exceed a speech of 6 minutes.
Okay, thank you guys all for coming to listen to our debate. I appreciate it very much. The resolution is that higher education in the U.S. should be free. And a key definition is that higher education tonight will be defined as community college and public universities. Our criteria is that when we can prove there are more benefits than costs, we've won. And the current status quo is that higher education is currently not universally free in the United States. Now, free higher education isn't a new concept that people are just starting to consider. Rutherford B. Hayes, our 19th president of the U.S., was our first president to push free education for all. And I quote from his inaugural address, "Universal suffrage should rest upon universal education." Now, during post-World War II, the GI Bill granted over 2 million veterans with free education. And it's important to note that during these times, the U.S. experienced economic growth and boosts in productivity. And recently, a Democratic presidential candidate by the name of Bernie Sanders had pushed the idea of free higher education for all. However, regardless of your political party affiliation, us all being here tonight shows that we all have one value in common, that we value a higher education that will help push our future students into a better future. However, the current state of our higher education does not offer this opportunity equally, and we must ask ourselves the question, is it ethically acceptable for a student to be granted access to higher education while a similar performing student is refused the opportunity due to differing circumstances that these students were born into? Now, one of the harms of higher education not being free is that rising costs of higher education are making it difficult for ordinary Americans to get the schooling that they so desire or need. Now, according to the Harvard Education Press, anywhere from 10 to 40% of students presumed to be heading to college fail to matriculate any post-secondary institution in the fall following high school. Now, the reason why this is important, a college education is becoming the new high school diploma, and with requirements for jobs growing higher and higher, so does the demand for a degree. However, these high prices are causing high school students nationwide to not be able to consider this option of a higher education. And not only that, but even students who have been accepted into these colleges are often forced to change their mind due to a realization that they will not be able to pay for these high prices or student loan debts later in life. Another harm is that graduates come out of college struggling to pay off these student loan debts. Now, according to Time in an article written in 2016, 3.6 million borrowers, which is about 1 in every 6, were in default on a total of $56 billion in student debt, meaning they had gone at least a year without making a payment. Another 3 million borrowers, owing an approximate total of $66 billion, were behind payments by at least a month. And yet another 3 million, owing $110 billion, were in forbearance or deferment, meaning that they had received permission to cease payments due to a financial emergency such as unemployment. Now, why is it important? Student loan debts can often get in the way of achieving such goals that a student works so hard for in college. And a student who graduates and has expensive student loans to start paying off immediately might not be able to be patient for the right job in which they studied for, and instead has to accept a lower paying job that is out of their field. Now, when you look at it from a nationwide view, we are shortening our economy of a significant number of skilled workers that would help contribute to the country's economic prosperity. Now, additionally, many young people will then go on in life struggling to purchase a home, get married, or have kids because of these student loan debts. Now, who's to blame? The government. The government is to blame because by increasing federal financial aid, colleges then see this as an opportunity to raise tuition prices at a faster rate than inflation. Now, our plan is to make tuition for community colleges and public universities in the U.S. universally free. Other costs such as food, housing, and textbooks will still be charged. One of the leading options for funding is imposing a tax on Wall Street speculators. Now, one of the biggest supporters of this is Bernie Sanders, in which under his plan, he proposes that we tax high-frequency trades, which make billions of dollars but don't socially contribute to the economy. And these high-frequency trades would be taxed at 0.5% for stocks and 0.1% for bonds. Not only would this create more revenue for colleges, but this would also encourage for productive trades to be made. Now, a benefit of having free education is that having universal access to higher education will allow for more people to get a degree that will help give them better chances at earning a higher paying job. In an article in the New York Times website, it was stated that Americans with four-year college degrees made 98% more an hour on average in 2013 than people without a degree. Therefore, it is blatant that earning a higher education will lead to greater economic prosperity in future years. And by having more people earning higher wages, more money will be returned back into the economy. And not only will our economy benefit, but we as a society will benefit when we have more passionate people who can contribute because they are more educated. We'll have more educated architects, doctors, engineers, and other highly skilled jobs. Thank you, audience. Vote affirmative.
The House now recognizes a first negative constructive and a speech not to exceed 7 minutes.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. Our resolve is that the higher education in the U.S. should be free. I agree with all definitions that Kevin said. The criteria is if we prove there are more costs and benefits than we have won. When he was talking about like everyone having a negative degree, they can go out and get a better job. The more qualified college grads will reduce pay for all. Why do we go to college? What is the purpose of college? According to the Pew Research Center, it is to help students grow personally, intellectually, and teach work-related skills to prepare one to join the workforce. There are already tons of college graduates that are competing for the same few jobs. So they become desperate. They'll take a lower pay cut than they should have done. We go to college so we can get that higher paycheck. Why else would anyone spend hours on my math lab trying to figure out what the value of X is? And so I could get paid, so we could get paid. Think of, has anyone ever played the board game Life? Anyone play it?
Here.
For those of you who haven't paid Life, or played the game of Life, go over to Walmart, they sell it for $20. And then play it on the family nights on Thursday, brings the family closer together. So in that game of Life, there's a certain section. Like it says you can go over to the college degree, but you have a college path or straight to your career path. But you have to pay $40,000 for it. When you go through that college path, you get to pick out of a special deck of cards for the higher salary and cooler jobs. The more people do that, the less those jobs will have. That's what separates us, the college people, the people that go to college, from the rest. It kind of defeats the purpose of going to college. My second cost is instead of 4 years, it could take longer. We're putting a lot on the line for the education that we seek. Those loans we have is a constant reminder of why we can't fail. It gives us a drive to finish and on time and pass. It's possible that many people would abuse the education system. The community college dropout rate is at 47%, according to the National Student Clearinghouse, who does annual reports on college completion rates. It's possible that this percentage rate could go higher, with the students who have really nothing to lose. An acquaintance of mine, Charles Whitesides, who attended this institution back in about 2007, 2008, he now works as a professor at Rowan in the university, at the Rowan University in Normandy, France. Attendance to the university is free, and he has explained to me the difference in student mentality as opposed to college here. I quote, "I have had a few students take my classes multiple times. It's hard for me to do my job when some of these students don't have a will to learn. These students need that extra push." And he was onto something. That extra push is that scary loan we have to pay back. We would be wasting taxpayers' money on those kids who wouldn't take school more seriously. Which brings me to my next point. Who's gonna pay? Free college. That sounds great, right? But nothing in life is really free. Even freedom isn't free. That's up there. Bernie Sanders proposed that to tax Wall Street, and the others proposed to tax the 1%. It's the reason why the ones that are there, the reason why they're rich is because they hire people. The reason why you hire someone is because they create surplus value. The definition of surplus value is the excess value produced by the labor of workers over the wages they are paid. If they don't create surplus value for you, then you don't hire them. For example, I was hired to install a home theater system. If they could do it themselves, they wouldn't have hired me. I created surplus value for them because it frees them up to do things which they couldn't do. I created surplus value for them. By creating this surplus value, by taxing them, they don't take losses. Instead, they'll close down their branches and more people will lose their jobs. Make the poor poorer. Then who will pay? Taxpayers? The middle class is already diminishing? America is already in a financial strain. According to the US debt clock, we are in $21 trillion of debt. And by freeing education, it could possibly collapse our economy. The people who have money get taxed. They leave, or worse, stop investing or even scale down their business. Those people who we view as greedy are the reasons why this country has jobs. Free education would diminish America's economy, and this is why we must vote negative.
The House now recognizes the second affirmative constructive, not to exceed 7 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here today and hearing our debates. Our resolution is higher education in the U.S. should be free. When we can provide more benefits than costs, then we have one. Now, I'm going to refute to the negative when and see on personal and intellectually developing later on in life, which would bring me to my first harm. Student loan debt often forces college graduates to live with their parents and delay marriage and financial independence and other adult milestones.
Here.
According to a 2015 Federal Reserve study, 30-year-olds who have never taken out a student loan are now more likely to own homes than those who have taken out loans. Auto loans are also trending down at faster rates for those with student debt history than those without. In 2013, student loan borrowers delayed retirement savings by 41%, car purchases by 40%, home purchases by 29%, and marriage by 15%. Less than 50% of women and 30% of men had passed the transition into adulthood. Milestones by the age of 30, finishing school, moving out, and getting married, and having children. In 1960, 77% of women and 65% of men had completed those milestones. Why is that? Well, back then, college was thousands and thousands way cheaper than what it is now. And when the negative mentioned that they will abuse the education system, that's just a fallacy. You can't put all those students in one. What about the ones who are going to work harder? Because education is free.
Here.
Go ahead.
According to an article in New York Times, people own more student loan than credit. My harm number 2 for tuition not being free is many students do not graduate and waste their own and their government's money. According to the U.S. Department of Education, about 19% of students who enroll in college do not return for the second year. Overall, 41% of students at four-year colleges and universities did not graduate within the 6 years. 41% of public schools, the federal government allocated $176.83 billion for college loans, grants, tax benefits, and work studies in 2013. State governments spent $81.2 billion supporting public colleges in 2012. Students who started bachelor's degrees in the fall of 2002 but did not graduate within the 6 years accounted for $3.8 billion in lost income, $566 million in lost income taxes, and $164 million in lost state income taxes in 1 year. The government gets fewer tax dollars from non-college graduates than from college graduates who have higher wages. Students who drop out during the first year of college cost states $1.3 billion and the federal government $300 million per year in wasted student grant programs and government appropriations for college. This is with education not being free. Now, to my benefits. More lower income students might reach graduation. Some students drop out because they do not have the ability to pay for tuition all 4 years. Making college tuition free would eliminate this reason for not graduating. This would also serve to improve colleges' graduation rates as fewer students would feel the need to drop to part-time status or take a break from education or for financial reasons. According to the U.S. Department of Education, in 2014, 59% graduated with a bachelor's, grants and scholarships, lower class, and then the middle class, 41% graduated with a bachelor's when they received grants and scholarships, and 38% upper class with bachelor's and with a bachelor's, and they also received grants and scholarships. Now to my benefit number 2. Students might have more freedom to choose a major they actually want. Whether it is the influence of parents knowing you need to pay loans back as quickly as possible, current students are often guided toward practical majors that have they have more financial stability to pay back your loans. If shelling out thousands upon thousands of dollars is no longer a factor, parents and students might not have they might feel more relaxed about studying for majors that don't necessarily have a large paycheck associated with them. Interest and enjoyment from a field of study goes a long way in helping students stick with it instead of burning out. Now to my third benefit. A happier and healthier life. One of the most important benefits of education is how it improves personal lives and helps societies run smoothly. We live longer, fuller, and happier lives as learned and knowledgeable individuals. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, educated people are more actively involved in various societal activities such as voting, volunteering, political interest, and interpersonal trust. Education is essential in improving our lifestyles and overall well-being because it makes us aware of what we know and what we can do. We lead happier lives with the knowledge we accumulate and the skills we acquire throughout our educational years. Happier people are healthier people. The life expectancy of those who are educated is longer on average than those who are lacking in their education. This is why education needs to be free for all.
Here, here.
There's free tuition in Germany, Finland, and Iceland, and France. A student from Germany says, "I love not paying for school. I focus more on my class and schoolwork. It's an honor to receive free education." Vote affirmative.
House now recognizes the second narrative constructive in a speech not to exceed 7 minutes.
Alrighty. Hi guys, how are you? I would like to start by thanking you all for coming and joining us to watch our debate. The resolution is higher education in the United States should be free. I agree with all definitions given, thanks guys. When we prove we have more costs and benefits, then we have won the debate. The current status quo is that higher education is currently not free in the United States. Alrighty. And I would like to start by refuting a statement that Daisy said, saying that free college will allow many more individuals to attend college and make a better society. Although many more individuals will have that chance to attend college, it will encourage many students to waste their time and become extremely unmotivated. According to Jeff Jacoby, an award-winning columnist for the Boston Globe since 1994, he states that an enact legislation that allows anyone to go to college on a taxpayer's dime will see more unmotivated college students whose time would be far better spent elsewhere. The overconsumption of higher education is already pronounced. Just 59% of college students at four-year institutions manage to earn a degree within 6 years. Today's college students learn a lot less than college students once did. If college becomes free, even more people can attend college without bothering to become educated or without acquiring any economically meaningful skills. This being said, yes, many more individuals will attend college. This does not mean that it will provide benefits to our society or economy. Students will not grasp meaningful skills and will waste most of their time and taxpayers' money.
Shame.
Shame. Alrighty. Another benefit I would like to refute is stated by Daisy, saying that free college has succeeded in other countries. Although free college has succeeded in other countries, their demographics and populations differ from us in the United States. According to Abby Jackson, a graduate from Yale University with a degree in political science, she states that many European countries, like Germany, already offer free college, and they do so for many students regardless of family income level. But free is a relative term since taxpayers absorb that cost. European countries differ greatly from the U.S. in substantial ways. Their college enrollment percentages are much lower than America. Europe also traditionally has higher taxes than the U.S. Making college free in the United States will take a completely different toll than how it's managed in other countries. Although they are successful, the U.S. simply will not be able to carry that heavy load. Another benefit I would like to argue is that free college allows people with low income to attend. Alright, so yes, many low income students will be able to attend, but they have a higher chance of dropping out and on them. According to Alison Stranger, an economist and writer, she states that in America, free tuition can increase enrollment among poor students. But without adequate support and preparation, many struggle and drop out without getting much value from college. Free tuition certainly helps some people, but it's not the most efficient use of money if the goal is to increase access to university education and reduce the debt of poor and middle-class families. Currently, families end up paying based on their income, which means richer students subsidize poor students. A free tuition model is extremely regressive because it gives richer students a subsidy and places a bigger burden on poor students by not helping them with the cost of living and other things like that, books, everything like that. A price based on ability to pay shares the burden more fairly, which is what we're using right now. Because families pay for college based on their income, wealthy students substantially subsidize low-income students. Free college will not cover the cost of living and other needs, which drastically hurts poor students, but gives rich students a free handout. Making college price based on the ability to pay making college price based on the ability to pay to enroll allows the burden to fall evenly on all groups.
Okay.
Alrighty guys, so a couple of costs I would like to tell you guys. Okay, so allowing higher education to be free will flood the system and devalue your degree. And I know a lot of you out there have some degrees. So, according to Martin Alexander, a political scientist from UCLA, flooding the college system devalues your degree. People go to college for many reasons. but the biggest one is to get a degree and the job feels fit for you. And setting yourself apart from others who want the same career as yourself, the job market is much more competitive now than it's ever been. Can you imagine thousands of more people with the same degree as you competing for the same job? How are you going to be made more employable than others? Your education can only go so high. And with so many people getting the same one, there's not going to be enough room for employment. More people with the same degree equals less value to your degree. Many of you in this room worked long and grueling hours to obtain the degree you have. Imagine working that hard for your degree to be almost meaningless. Sorry. Second cause, and this is the most important and dear to my heart, is most if not all of us here attend, work, or graduated from a community college. By making higher education free, community college would simply collapse. And I know many of you do not plan on losing your career anytime soon. Gary Olson, a columnist on higher education administration for the Chronicle of Higher Education, writes, the state's community college would be endangered. Many students attend community colleges because of the low tuition. If state institutions were tuition free, there would be no incentive to attend the local community college. Consequently, the community college would also experience a steep drop in development and enrollment. With this being said, allowing higher education to be free would hurt all of us in the long run. We're here today to discover, learn, and appreciate talented students from our community college here at LBCC. It would be a shame if we put our historic and beloved school to downfall. Thanks, guys. Vote negative. Woo!
The House now recognizes the first negative speaker and a rebuttal not to exceed 2 minutes.
So I'm supposed to talk about why we won. We have won because we have proven more costs and benefits. I'm gonna come out here and talk to you guys. I used to believe that education should be free. Do you have a degree, sir?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you have it on in your office on the wall. When you look at it, man, you're like, I earned that. I paid for that. You worked hard for it. It will diminish if you make education free. Don't diminish our education. Don't make sure it stays valuable. Go negative.
Don't fit, you must have quit.
You're all paying attention. This is awesome. All right, the House now recognizes the first affirmative speaker. Not to exceed 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you all one more time for coming out and listening to our very exciting debate. Very personal too, with the audience. So, I'm going to start by rebuttaling the second negative argument with 3 points. One, she argued that students will not take college seriously if it's free. And that is a valid point. There are going to be students who will not take their education free because they do not have to pay for it. But should their character determine whether a student who would give their shirt off their back be able to get an education? Now, in addition to that, she had stated that tuition is often priced based on the family income. Now, what she left out was that lower classes are the ones who get the most help. And being that the middle class is the largest class of our society, the middle class is often left out because most of the funding goes to the lower class. And lastly, targeting that community college would disappear. She's forgetting one thing, it's in the name, community. Many people might not want to. Despite the fact that education would be free universal, Many students might not want to leave the comfort of their homes and instead have certain ties socially, to their family, to their job, that would want them to stay local and support their local community. Now, there's many benefits to a free higher education. One, it makes it so that everyone is granted the access to better their future. Because what makes someone that was born into a certain life condition more valuable and more guaranteeing to get an education than someone who was born into less fortunate circumstances? Now, not only are we leveling the playing field, but we're bettering our chances as a society, because when we send more educated people into our workforce, we are going to produce better results and have a better functioning society that is more knowledgeable about how to go on about the future. I believe that we have presented more benefits than costs to free universal higher education. And thank you all for listening. Vote affirmative.
You guys are an awesome audience. Thank you so much. Wish my classes paid this close attention.
Here.
All right. I want you guys to know that this was not scripted. They do not know what the other team is going to be saying. They have not debated this before. They got this debate topic just a couple of weeks ago, and I think that they did a great job tonight. So, ask you to do, please, is I want you to vote for the team that you think debated the strongest, regardless of what you personally think or feel about the topic. Okay? So, I am going to ask that we go old school kindergarten on this and close our eyes. And so, those of you that vote for the affirmative team, please raise your hands and keep your hands up while we count the votes. Affirmative. That was the first people that spoke. Okay.
Oh, guys. No, I didn't leave them out. I'm looking at everybody. I'm not gonna play that.
Hold on, I have to add. Oh, you put your hands down. Thank you. Okay, keep your eyes closed. Those of you that vote negative, please raise your hands. Have your eyes closed.
I wasn't closing my eyes up, judging. I'm a teacher of you. Like, I'll wait a minute. You can see. Open your eyes, look at everybody.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You can open your eyes. Oh my goodness. Yes. It is not a tie. However, the winners won by 2 votes. And I swear I added all up on my phone. It's all good. Okay. So the winners are the affirmative team.
Let's give one last round of applause for our amazing debaters. They did an awesome job. You guys are both winners here, no matter what. So thank you guys all for coming out tonight and enjoying this evening, to enjoy all of our amazing speakers and performers. So that concludes all the performances for this evening. However, at this time, I would like you all to take out your tickets if you still have them for our opportunity drawing.
I didn't get it.
Carrie, you can have my ticket.
Carrie. No, Carrie don't. Why would you vote?
Okay.
So that concludes our opportunity drawing. We hope that you all enjoyed the student performances and the debate this evening. As you can see, we have a lot of talent here at LBCC. And to thank all all of our lovely performers, we would like to present each of them with a certificate of appreciation tonight. So presenters, please come up when I call your name. I'll do one at a time. Now, some of our performers have left early, so if they don't come up, that is why.
Shame.
This one's to myself. Yay! Valerie Ornelas, please come up and accept your certificate. Matthew Patello. Evan Miranda. Daisy Garcia. Brooke Barris. Oh, she left. She left, but good job, Brooke. Jeremy Gates. Stacy Brooks. Stephanie Fesser. Laura Lee Menchie. Ron Orden.
Yeah.
Fema Sapoy Finau. Katie Owen. Bobby Gaxiola. And lastly, Sarah Martin.
Thank you, Miss Sarah.
I lied. This is our last one. Hannah Robinson. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming out tonight. You guys have been an amazing audience. Before we go, I'd like to give a big round of applause to all our communication professors, our coaches, and the organizers for this event that made it all possible. We hope the show has enlightened you on the power of communication and has hopefully encouraged you guys to want to take communication classes next semester. Or enroll to take some classes. And we hope to see you all back next year for our 3rd annual Communication Studies Student Showcase. Everyone have a great night.